And we're live. Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. And today we have an incredible story of body and mind transformation with Laura Belzer. She's going to share with us how she used stem cell activation patches and stem cell technology to transform and completely change her life. So Laura, thank you, my friend and gem, for being on here today. You are in sunny Florida, aren't you?
I am in sunny Florida, and it's an absolutely stunning day. I live in paradise. I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're in Sarasota, aren't you?
I am downtown Sarasota.
Yeah, downtown Sarasota. It's beautiful down there. Yeah, we just had that leadership in January that we attended. I got to see you. I feel so lucky. Gotten to see you so much in the last
Twice.
6 to 8 months. Yeah, it's been really fun. So, and then this weekend in Scottsdale as well. So let's, before we dive in deep, would you kind of share with our viewers and our listeners here a little bit about yourself? Are you are you like an only child? Do you have 3 kids in your family, 5? Where did you grow up with, and where did you start off?
Well, I grew up in Virginia. I grew up in a small town by the name of Roanoke. That's where I got my humble beginnings, if you will. And then after that, I ended up going to college for 2 years. And then I went to I graduated from business school, but ended up not fulfilling that part of the plan for the sheer fact, like all of us, it's like, oh, I'm not really sure if that's what I want to do. My heart's not there. And so I jumped into the corporate world, and long story short, I ended up working as a headhunter for a law firm in Richmond. Absolutely loved my job. I came from a long line of people in law. My dad was a lawyer and a judge. My sister was a paralegal, and I had gone to school to be a stenographer. And so I always had a love of the law or industry. And I really found my place there headhunting. But after I started having children, I knew I wanted to be home. And the thing that I gravitated to back then was health and wellness. And that started my health and wellness journey at that time. And it just was constantly morphing into bigger and better things and getting training from other universities and things of that nature. And so at that time, as I was starting my family, I became a personal trainer, a conditioning coach, as well as I wasn't certified in nutrition, but I had had so much training that also my clients, be it athletes or be it moms or be it men, I was able to help them with that perspective as well. So it's just really kind of kept me in that space for now, oh my gosh, 40 plus years of being in that space of health and wellness. And it's really taken me down a path of meeting some extraordinary people of all walks of life that have really added such value to my life that I've been able to pass on and share it with other people.
Wow, that's extraordinary. So it's really kind of funny how one of the common threads that I often see with a lot of people that I interview is that oftentimes they have an intention to go in one direction, but our creator, the divine, God,
Yep.
whatever label you want to ascribe to that higher power, seems
Right.
to have a way of course correcting us, and no experience is wasted. There's a reason why you had that experience of having the affiliation and having the experience of law and business and headhunting, and then having it detour. And I wouldn't even say detour. I think really it's a course correction, because we all zigzag our way
We
to
do.
where we're supposed to be.
Sure.
And every single experience along the way, again, no experience is wasted.
Sure.
So let's fast forward to the time and place in your life. We're going to move fast forward on the video of Laura Belzer's life.
Yeah.
Part right before you're introduced to this organic nanotechnology known as stem cell activation patches. What was going on the 6 months or year prior to, leading up to the moment, that divine appointment where
Yep.
you got this amazing little patch in your hand?
Well, I'm going to go off and I'm going to slide back on the curve just a little further than that, because I really want to touch on this course correction since you brought it up. And I really want to implore people to pay attention to that a little bit more, because I think sometimes we don't, right? And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a spot and we're like, wow, had I not done that, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish or do X, Y, and Z. So I think all those course corrections are very purposeful. We just might not know at the moment what they're meant to be. So for me, with this technology, to back up a little bit, you know, Lillian, in 2017, I found out, and this was after I had moved to Florida, I found out that I had stage 3 breast cancer. And because I had been in health and wellness for so long, and I want to precursor by saying I respect everybody for the choices they make. I just share my story because I want people to understand that they have options. So at that time when I found out, I kind of left the white coats at the door, if you will, and I say that respectfully. And I went on an immediate healing journey with an incredible wellness team of functional medicine, holistic, as well as a woman that I had met that was a world-renowned compound pharmacist. And so I knew that I could trust this team to take me on this health journey that I was going to go on. And so I started immediately with a very strict diet, IV vitamin therapy, supplementation, detoxification. And I love sharing that I healed myself in 6 months with absolutely 0 radiation, 0 chemotherapy, 0 surgery. And I know that's shocking for many who will hear this, being stage 3, but I share this because this type of thing, and I hate the word diagnosis, and you will find I choose my words very wisely, but is not built around doom and gloom. That you do have options, you don't have to make rash decisions, and it can be as empowering as most people think as it can be detrimental. And I feel like that is the hugest part, or the most huge part of my story, because I've realized that my family saw commitment and strength and discipline, and not fear, and all the other things that go with chemotherapy and or radiation. Right? They just saw nutrition and supplementation and health and wellness and power. And that is a great gift to give to your family. I have 3 children. I have 2 boys and a girl, and my oldest is starting his own family. And so it's a good gift. It's a great gift to offer. But, you know, Lillian, 4.5 years later, after I healed myself, as you said, it was a little bit of a divine appointment. I was invited to go listen to a gentleman by the name of David Schmidt speak at a seminar. I was with a friend and colleague who wanted to go hear about this technology. And I said, sure, I'll go. You know, she invited me because she knows how much I am into regenerative medicine and health and wellness. And so off we go. And I was clueless as to what I was walking into, but I left there with total awe and shock of the divine appointment there, because I certainly wasn't looking for anything. I didn't need anything that I thought, right? There's that little shift. And I walked out of there knowing explicitly that I had discovered something that was going to keep me and my body from ever being compromised again in that wellness sector of my life. So that's how that all came to be.
So, wow, you've said so many incredible things, including how you had awe and shock as to what it was that you were discovering as Schmidt uncovered this incredible technology, and you recognized that it was a divine appointment, and that it was, without a shadow of a doubt, explicitly exactly what you needed at the time when you needed it.
Right.
So let's back up a little bit, because I know some people heard about how when you received the information, because we don't like the word diagnosis. I don't like the word diagnosis either, because the word die, like in diet, I don't like diets either, because the word die is,
it's a heavy word. It's just
a heavy word. And yeah, and it's a snapshot in time. And so it was revealed to you that you had this particular condition at that moment, and you didn't allow anyone or anything to bully you into doing something that was against your own best interest. You took the moment to pause and really go in and decide how you wanted to approach this, recognizing that there's an infinitude of options out there. And so you, luckily, because you had that background in health and wellness, you surrounded yourself with functional medicine, integrative medicine. And then you said something very powerful, which not everyone, I don't think, that's watching and listening is aware of, what a compound pharmacy or a compound pharmacist is. So let's kind of talk a little bit about that so that people understand that that is an alternative that is available to you, and it's not pharmacists that do compound pharmacology do not just do big pharma meds, but actually custom create a blend of, it could be organic or not, but they can custom blend a formulation that is unique just to you.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about that so that people become aware, because you can get vitamins, you can get all sorts of different things.
Right. Well, you know, I think the thing is that I feel like a lot of people don't realize that they have those options. And so when you can find somebody that can compound for you, that is explicitly for your needs at that moment, the game changes. Because again, with all due respect to the pharmaceutical industry, they're not looking at feeding the garden. They're coming in and they're spraying napalm on it, or you could say Roundup on it, right? And so we had the target and the analogy of, let's feed the garden, not kill the garden. So everything that they put together for me was for my specific needs, not just because of the stage 3, but because other things for me personally. And when you have somebody who can go in and do that for you, it makes it just so much easier and you feel amazing, right? And I think, Lillian, the biggest part of this is our mind, okay? And I feel like when I was sitting in there with Dr. Mike, and this were his words to me, which was, I'm tapping my foot. He's not giving me any answers yet, right? He's still looking to see what it is. And finally, I said, Mike, what's the deal? He goes, oh, you're a hot mess. You definitely have cancer. He said, your immune system is totally shot. You do not have one. Your body has been working so hard to fix this that your immune system is just shot. He said, but Laura, I'm not worried about it. We can fix this. And it was at that moment, unequivocally, that I knew that I was at the right place to do the job that I needed to do, because there is not a medical doctor out there that would ever say to any of their patients, in my opinion, I can fix this. Yeah. There's not one. And anybody who watches this, who's experienced this, you never had it said to you. And I knew at that moment I was going to get this job done, because I said to Mike, I said, when do we get started? Oh, we're starting today. We're starting today. And I did. I did my first IV therapy, my drip that day, my first one. And, you know, Lillian, I want people to know that one thing that Dr. Mike did say to me was, Laura, it was a good thing you had the intuition to call Dr. Jennings. He said, because had you gone the other route, your immune system is so compromised, this cancer would have never killed you. The chemo and radiation would have taken you out in 6 months. And I really want people to hear that loud and clear, because I left that day with a true understanding that I don't know the percentages of people, and I'm not going to say one here, I can guesstimate on my own knowledge, but I will not do that here, are not dying of cancer. They're dying of the treatment of the cancer, because we're not getting to the root of the problem. We're not feeding the body. We're not giving it the tools that it needs. We were not made to get sick, right? We were not made that way. And yes, there's mishaps. We all know these things, okay? But as a whole, our bodies are not made to be sick.
No.
right?
Yeah.
So for me personally, I know exactly why I got sick. I created a perfect storm. And sometimes life creates perfect storms for us. Stress, high levels of stress, sugar, food. Man, it's like when they all come crashing in, things like that happen, right? And so I never was, why did this happen to me? I never said that. But, Lillian, you brought up a good point, which is I also protected not only my mind, but I protected my heart. And I did not tell a lot of people that I was going to go on this journey. Y'all, I didn't even tell my mother.
I believe
I
you.
did not tell my mom for the sheer fact she's very white coat oriented. And I didn't need her in my ear going, you need to go to the doctor. You need to go to the doctor. What are you doing? No, I had to keep my vibration up, right? So I could just flow through this thing. And everybody knew around me. I think I used the word cancer one time in the first 30 minutes that I found out. I never used it again. And the people around me that I happened to tell, like my children and my husband and some very close family friends, they never uttered the word once because they knew that's just not the path I was going on. I was healing. I wasn't dying. I was healing.
So I love what you're saying because in my experience, the people that tend to thrive and continue to be alive and grow and prosper and regenerate themselves, they know well enough that not only are you responsible for the energy that you show up into a place, but you're also responsible for what energy you allow in. And we know that people respond in predictable ways. We know how the family dynamics, we know how our friends and family and acquaintances, and we know what the general modality and way of thinking, how to handle problems, bad news, and thing is. And so knowing that you already have an uphill battle, that you know without a shadow of a doubt that you've had someone who's like locking arms with you saying, we're going to fix this. No question about it. We can fix this. And we're starting today. You don't need anything that's going to go against that. And so one thing that you and I share in common, well, like when I was diagnosed with my traumatic brain injury, because I was hit, by a bus,
Right.
as soon as I became aware that I had a traumatic brain injury, I never uttered that word out loud to anyone. I heard my neurologist say it, and I said, from your lips to God's ears, but no one outside of this room is going to ever hear that I had a traumatic brain injury until this is all behind me. And then that was so, because I did not want to accept, receive, and embrace that and make it greater. I didn't want that to grow. And so I chose not to tell didn't tell my children, didn't tell, again, my neurologists were the only ones who knew it. My chiropractor, who was seeing me all the time, didn't know it either. And of course, eventually I had Dr. Daniel Amen did a brain scan on me, and of course his office knew. But outside of that, even when I was filming for Quiet Explosions, a documentary on traumatic brain injuries, I never said anything even to she knows now, but I was still going through it at the time.
Right.
And so that is, I think it's a very powerful thing because you were protecting your mind and your heart. That space to create the most fertile ground, as you said before, because you know that as you speak, you can continue to recreate the unwanted, but you're trying to not create the unwanted, create the wanted. Instead of how much worse can it get, how much better can it get, knowing that the human body is designed always to heal.
Exactly.
We get a little cut, and without having to think about it, without having to ruminate or even get help, everybody's finger, when you get a cut, it heals on its own.
Right. The Band-Aid doesn't heal it. The body heals it. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is fantastic. So Dr. Mike, you locked arms with him. Now you're basically, armed and dangerous with your doctor on your side. You have a compound pharmacist who's like the world-renowned compound pharmacist. Not too easy to find, a world.
No, I was very blessed. And had I not moved to Florida, and see, this is one of these shifting moments. Had I not moved to Florida and I had stayed back in Virginia and had found this out, more than likely, I would have gone the conventional way for the sheer fact I did not have the knowledge and the good fortune of meeting these people. So never deny an opportunity. You just don't know what's going to show up. And it doesn't have to be like something for me, but for me, it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, I tell people all the time, it was the most incredible experience of my life outside of giving birth to my children. There's not a lot of people that walk away from any illness of that magnitude and say, oh my God, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But sincerely, it was the best thing, because when you set your mind to something, you're going to do it, right? You're going to do it. And so that just plays a huge part in it. And, you know, Lillian, I know too many people that make decisions based on their mothers and their husbands and their family. Well, they really want me to do it this way. And you know what? It's not about them. It's about you. Yes, it affects them, right? But it's about you. And I remember talking to my husband and going, hey, are you okay with this? Like, are you okay with me doing this like this? And he was like, oh, I'm way okay. However, you have a job to do. We're not messing. Get it done. Right. And so he was very supportive, but he was also expressing himself like, you know, we're not going to mess here. And so it was an incredible experience. And I think the thing is when I did discover the technology, that cute little patch that you held up, it was very divine for me, for the sheer fact that not only for myself, so my body wouldn't be compromised again because of the systems we're able to support with that, but it also, I finally felt like I had been given a platform to not only share my experience, but share it in a way that I had something in my hand that could help all types of people, all walks of life, to have the same opportunity that I did to help their bodies regenerate, rejuvenate, and heal, and not have to go to drastic measures, right? And so for me, it was a really big thing for me to walk in that room that day for so many reasons.
So let's talk about how, so you were invited and introduced, was it by Dr. Stacy?
Yeah, Dr. Stacy and I went. Yeah.
That's what I thought I'd heard the story that Dr. Stacy invited you. It's like, oh my gosh, Laura, you got to come here. The scientist, he's got the latest and greatest about stem cell technology. And, you know, she's a mutual friend of ours and business partner.
Yep.
And, you know, you were already aware that she had spent over $125,000 in stem cell therapies for her daughter, Taylor. And
Correct.
so she was very well versed. You were obviously very well versed with the health and wellness that you had experienced and all the knowledge and training and so forth that you had. So what was the first emotion that you had as you sat listening to David unfold these jewels that are
They are.
yeah, they're jewels, and it's like of all the times in history that we could be living on planet Earth, that it would coincide at a time that we're on planet Earth, the same time that David has created this, and then dovetailing it with traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture points is about as Tesla on steroids as you can imagine. So what did you feel or think or sense at that time as you experienced that and as you walked away?
So, you know, when David was speaking of the stem cell activation technology, I was blown away. You know, there's for a lot of people, a lot of controversy that surrounds that, other people's DNA, the harvesting, the whole thing. And I get that, right? And I think everybody has the right to have their own opinion about that. But when I sat there and I was listening, that, wait a minute, that's non-existent here. We're talking about mobilizing and activating our own personal stem cells again. Well, those of us who have been in the health and wellness industry for so long, we know that number one, we all started as humans as a stem cell, number one. And number two, they are the holy grail of healing. That is their job, right? But as time goes on, as we get older, outside influences, things of that nature, you know, our stem cell production starts to decline. And I thought, this is futuristic. This is technology that's about 20 years ahead of its time. And so, you know, Stacy's just taking notes like crazy. We're chills. We're like, it's crazy. But outside of that, the buzzword that really made me sit up in my seat was when David used the word glutathione. Now, many of you might not know what glutathione is. I did not until I went on my healing journey. But glutathione is a master of all antioxidants that your body produces naturally. Oh, and there's that cute little patch there. And
For people who are
so
wondering how to spell it, there's the spelling.
there's the spelling.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned that day when David started speaking about his glutathione patch and the technology involved in that, I learned that day and understood why my wellness team was pumping so much glutathione in me when I was healing. I mean, you guys, I was doing in my IV pushes twice a week. I was using 100% glutathione suppositories at night. Every night I went to bed. Not the most fun thing, but right? You do what you got to do, right? So, but what I learned that day is the reason they were pumping so much in me was because when you get glutathione from an outside source, okay, where I'm going to keep this very layman, when you get it from an outside source, you only hold on to about 23% of what you're receiving, right? And it has a half-life of like 7 minutes. Well, that's just not going to do, right? Hence the amount I was getting constantly. But when David's, what? Go ahead.
That is the optimal, like the most is 23%.
Oh, that's the most. That's all you're getting. Yeah.
So some people, it's going to be less than 7 minutes and it's going to be less than 23%. So at best. So that's another reference as opposed to.
Right. And so when I was listening to David and he explained if I place the glutathione patch on my skin, that I'm now going to be able to signal my liver to make its own, like it should be anyway, that I'm now going to get anywhere between 300 to 400%, and it stays in my body for 24 hours. Well, I'm very vividly remembering my elbow going into Dr. Stacy's ribs at that moment. And I said to her, how do I get that on my body? I want that on my body, because that was the thing outside of the stem cells that I knew without a shadow of a doubt that my body would never be compromised again. And I want everyone to understand it doesn't have to be about that level of disease. It's glutathione helps you with everything. It helps you stay younger. It helps you to fight defenses of get the flu and getting sick and recovering quickly, right? The body's able to kick in and take care of whatever it is, as long as you have it. If you have it, if you don't have it, the body can't take care of itself. And then maybe instead of having the flu for 3 days, you have the flu for 3 weeks or longer, or you have a bad cold or whatever, right? So it's glutathione for me. Everybody in the world needs to be on it. And I love that you've brought this up, because I know it's a part of your Fantastic Five for your clients. And in my perfect little world, if I could have everybody in the world use 3 different patches that David has, this patch would definitely be included for everybody, because Lillian, the people that live the longest, fullest lives have the highest levels of glutathione in their bodies.
Yeah, it's a determinant of longevity.
Yes.
The older you are, the less glutathione levels you have. And so they can actually measure the length of lifespan that you have left by the levels of glutathione in your system.
Right. So for me, that was the game changer, and for me personally. But, I walked out of there thinking about some people, and I just felt to myself, had I known about this technology, why they were still here. I knew without a shadow of a doubt, more than likely they would still be here had I had it to offer them. So it just kind of was a whirlwind of a day. It was, I had gained great knowledge that day, and I knew that I couldn't leave there and not tell people about it. It would just be the most horrific thing to know about something of this magnitude. And, those who are ready to receive the information, and run with it, how can I not tell them?
Yeah. It's like Bob Campbell says, a mutual friend of ours. He goes, it would be criminal not to share this life-saving technology with anyone who is willing to listen and to hear about it.
Yeah.
Because because you just don't know the life that you will save. And make no mistakes, these stem cell activation patches have saved thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. And every day, and the timing of a lot of the people and patients that I have in my practice that I see, the day that someone started on the stem cell activation patches, and then this gal, her husband had a stroke. Another gentleman was looking at getting started on stem cell activation patches. His father was diagnosed with a brain stem tumor. The following day, he had surgery. And because he already, when you have you get that type of earth-shattering news, it's difficult to kind of assess and look over this type of information.
Mhm.
And luckily, there have been people who have had the benefit where they were already checking this out, and then either themselves or someone in their family,
Sure.
something happened that this technology saved their lives.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think the thing is too, is that for me, I had known Mike and Jenny for a while. And so it wasn't a question of me trusting them or not. And I think if you have somebody in your life that you love and you trust them and they bring whatever to you, please remember it's coming from a place of the heart. Again, here we are talking about the heart again. And I would never go to anybody and tell them about something like this if I knew that it couldn't help them in some manner. And I feel like just sometimes you just got to trust. You have to trust the people around you. And, when they say, hey, I've got this thing, I think it can help you, say yes. Say yes. Lillian, you remember Alicia. You met Alicia. I can't remember the exact timeline, but 10, 11 years ago, she was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then she had a blood cancer on top of that. I always say it incorrectly, so I'm not even going to, try to do that. But, that woman doesn't say yes to anything, and it's incurable. And they just monitor her for years and years and years and years, just monitor her flare-ups and, try to manage them the best as they could. And when I left that day from hearing David, this was my phone call to her. Alicia, I just listened to this gentleman speak. I don't know much, but I know you need it. And she said yes. And she never says yes. Never, ever. Fast forward 45 days. She goes to get one of her PET scans. She calls me the next day and I said, give it to me. She goes, well, this is what he said, her oncologist. Alicia, I don't know what you're doing. I don't want to know what you're doing. I just don't ever want you to stop. He said, because that word I told you would never hear, you're about 10% away from it. And that word was remission. Now, you guys, that was almost a year, almost 2 years ago. So her numbers are so, she's so close. I don't know if she'll ever watch this. If I could get her to change her eating, she'd probably already be 100% healed, right? So, it's just, I can't imagine had I not called her that day. Can you imagine had I not called her that day because I felt like I didn't know enough? I don't know a darn thing, but I think you need it.
She may not.
Life-changing.
Yeah, if you hadn't said anything, she may no longer be here with us. But luckily, because you did, at this point, you and I have seen so many people's lives have been radically transformed for the better. And in some cases, an entire family where
Right.
you saw Amy just about 3 weeks ago.
Sure.
She's a mortgage banker, and how she started for AFib, the stem cell activation patches. And then her mother, who was in a wheelchair and a walker, ended up getting out of a wheelchair and a walker. And then her father accidentally severed his finger, breaking down corrugated cardboard boxes. I think he was like 68. They attached his finger back on. The doctor told him because of his age, it would take at least a year and a half for it to heal. 8 days later, he's back at, the doctors, and the doctor's like, this is incredible. You're almost completely healed, because he was on the stem cell activation patches. And if it's not enough with the bipeds, it moved on to the quadrupeds, as I like to affectionately call our little furry creatures. One of our unconditionally loving family members. Their Great Dane had hip problems. It could barely walk. And when she did her testimonial, we saw that Great Dane running around like it was a puppy, even though it was apparently it was an older dog. So that entire family had a radical, life-changing regeneration and reparation of their bodies at a cellular level that involved the entire collective, to where they're all happy and healthy now.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too. I mean, none of us, not even our doctors out there, are really put in a position to diagnose, cure, make these massive promises. That's not our job. But what we do know is experiences. And we have over 4,000 experiences that have been shared with us. People having just all different symptoms, of things that they have going on, that over time they have diminished, right? And they have been resolved. And I think the thing is the most beautiful thing about this is it does take time. And I want everyone to find the beauty in the time of it all, because I feel a massive amount of the population are walking around in managerial mode or autopilot from the pharmaceuticals that they've been placed on for certain symptoms that they're experiencing. So nothing's ever getting fixed. It's just getting masked so you feel better and you can go skipping down the sidewalk. But the minute you were to stop that pharmaceutical, high blood pressure, for example, your blood pressure would shoot up again. And there's the problem, just because we're not masking it. Here, we're giving the body the opportunity to actually get to the root of the problem and have it regenerate, rejuvenate, and heal itself. Lillian, I like through all the clinical studies that we have, that David has come up with a brilliant rule of thumb, which is 1 month's use for every decade of life, for every 10 years of life. So if you're 40, commit to this technology for 4 months. If you want to continue on, I think that's beautiful. I'll never not stop, right? If you do decide to stop and you have totally achieved that regeneration, that rejuvenation, that repair, that healing, when you stop, does that mean it all goes away? Absolutely not. Your body holds on to what it's received, that healing, right? You will not turn into a pumpkin. No. But here's the beauty. There's David. But the beautiful thing is the one thing that will happen, and I'm not quite sure how beautiful you'll think this is. The aging process begins again. Because Lillian, you and I know that every 6 months of using this technology, the stem cell technology, the body reverses its cellular age by 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, I just turned 60, you guys, in November. So it's been a while. My blood work is showing that the inside of my body, and that's what matters, right? What directly is going on inside shows outside, number one. But my body is telling my doctors it's functioning that of a 33, 34-year-old. Now, I don't know about y'all, but sign me up.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know Laura in person, I will vouch. If you see her in person, you would think she's like 33, 34 years old. She's impeccably beautiful, just as you see her here on this video. She looks the same. And the 4,000 testimonials that she talked about, their experiences of all these individuals who have been on the stem cell activation patches anywhere from 3 hours to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And they're all in our group. They're all in our immediate group, and These are all people who are actively on the stem cell activation patches. There's a few of them who got on them not because they had any kind of a chronic inflammatory or any kind of a traumatic injury. There's a few of them that are on there for, either anti-aging or sports performance or things like that. But I would say the majority, maybe 90% of the people that are on there had some sort of trauma or had some sort of, or a multiplicity of conditions that have them, because you have oftentimes people who, when they have autoimmune, they don't oftentimes just have one. Sometimes they have two, three, four, five. Like people with Lyme's have
Mhm.
also, they could have lupus also and rheumatoid arthritis. And
Mhm.
there's no limit to that because
Yeah,
oftentimes those conditions, because you have an autoimmune disorder, your propensity to catching anything and everything just is increased.
sure.
So, this is an exciting proposition for anyone who is listening here. It could be that, make no mistakes, if you're watching this live, it's not a coincidence, it's a divine appointment. You've been asking, you've been knocking on doors, you've been looking, you've been praying, seeking to find a solution to whatever it is that you have going on. And this might be the open door for you, that all you have to do is try it. And as you said before, Laura, I love that you said, had you stayed in Virginia, one of the things that I've realized as I've moved forward in my life is that, we can either stay in the place that we are and argue for your limitations, and you will 100% continue to experience that, and it will usually get worse.
Right. You'll win
Right.
every time.
Yeah, so that's 100% now because you've already got it. And when it comes to chronic, whether it's you had an accident, like if I had done nothing about my traumatic brain injury, I would have just had more pain. I would have had more memory loss. I would have just declined
Right.
and I would have withered away far faster than if I would have acknowledged and embraced the fact that, yes, I know that the body is designed and programmed to restore and regenerate itself. And luckily, knock on wood, my
Yeah.
long-term memory was intact. All my training, all the medical background I had, I knew exactly what I needed to do it, and it still took me it still took me years.
Right.
And once on the stem cell activation patches, all the loose ends that I had, it's like all wrapped in a beautiful package in a bow where my memory, my focus, my brain processing speed, and all sorts of things started to disappear. And
Yeah.
as it's being repaired and restored, right? And so this is possible for any and all of you. Laura also did another thing. She recognized, for whatever reason, whether she had an intuitive hit or she had some sort of strong indicator that she needed to leave Virginia and go to Florida, that's where her open doors are.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, there's a reason why doors get shut, whether it's losing a job, getting laid off, being
Yeah.
either demoted or let go or laid off, or whatever your circumstances are. When the doors are shutting, that's to direct your energy to where there's an open door
Right.
somewhere. Your job is to do a 360 scan and go, where's the path of least resistance? Where's the open door? I got to tell you, to pay $8,000 to $11,000, for a stem cell injection or an IV therapy of stem cell, which 50% of the time it works, 50% of the time it does. So now you're gambling 50-50. 50% of the time, that $8,000, which oftentimes it's not just one injection, a lot of people need a series of those. And so,
And depending on where you are in the world.
and depending where you are in the world, and then to boot, the other factor is that those are donor stem cells. Let's take the ethical issue because a lot of people have issues
That
with
it
the
is.
source, umbilical cords, aborted fetuses, yada, yada. Let's take all of that away. Now let's look at that is still somebody else's stem cells. And even though they may have some good stem cells, nobody's body is perfect. So you might also be introducing things that you don't want into your body
Exactly.
that inadvertently are going to get turned on when it's added with your stem cells. That's a gamble that you have to take. With these little patches, these little beauties here that are just a little bit bigger, just a tiny bit bigger than a quarter.
I have mine on.
Yeah, I've
I
got
got
these
mine on.
enhancer.
I think I
These,
have 8 on right now.
I
Yeah.
usually
8
wear about
different ones. Yeah.
eight to 10, sometimes 12, depending on
Yeah.
what I'm doing. But these little stem cell activation patches are turning on the stem cells that you were conceived with in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
Even if you were born with a condition, it doesn't matter because you're getting reset your original, not your tired existing stem cells. Your original stem cells that have been dormant are going to be turned back on. They're fresh, brand new stem cells from back then are turned back on, and now it immediately goes to repair and restore your body. Is it going to repair and restore everything in an hour or in a day? No.
Oh,
Do people experience relief within 30 seconds to 3 to 4 minutes? Many do.
Yeah.
I've patched plenty who had just mind splitting migraines and they had a look of confusion. They're like, oh my God, my migraine's gone. They're like, is that possible? I go, yep, it is possible. I go, the ice wave patch will turn off the pain receptors, but that mother stem cell activation patch on the back of your head,
Yep.
that is replacing and restoring things at a quantum rate. And then the ice wave is just turning off the pain receptors that you're wearing under each earlobe. Sometimes they'll wear it on the temples, other times they wear it under the earlobe. Either way, they work both equally well. One's practically touching your brain, the other one's going directly on your carotid artery, going straight up into the brain. It works like this.
Yep.
So, does everybody experience relief within 30 seconds to 3 or 4 minutes? No.
No.
85% of the people feel something in the first day. The other 15%, I didn't feel anything the first day. It was a month before I noticed anything significant. Now, I was already pretty good, pretty healthy. I was at the tail end of finishing getting, my traumatic brain injury stuff, and I still had some chemistry issues that when you get a traumatic brain injury, that's your brain is your CPU. That's your central processing unit. It's the, what runs everything. So when it gets knocked offline, all of your chemistry gets knocked off. So I still had a few things that were trailing, but guess what? Like another thing of embarrassment that I had that was as a direct result of my traumatic brain injuries, I had a bald spot. Up until October, I never said that. I never let anybody know about that because it was a source of shame, not being able to put my hair in a ponytail because you have that big bald spot the size of my palm.
Yeah.
And now I've got about 5-6 inches worth of hair growth. And I have about 70% of that previously shiny bald spot, almost 6 years. Now about 70% of it has grown in, and it's not just, that's where it's most noticeable. But I've had hair growth, and my hair is much softer and silkier, which that's evidence of the reparation of damaged cells. We
Yep.
look at aesthetics, but if you look good and healthy on the outside, the chances are you're good and healthy on the inside.
Yep.
And so this is very exciting. Is there anything else that you really feel that it's important for people to know about the stem cell activation patches? And
I think one thing that's sticking in my brain a little bit is that whether people are watching live now or they happen to see the recording later or listen to the recording later is, you're talking about your traumatic brain injury. I talked about my story. We mentioned some other things, but the first patch that my husband used, he was a one patch wonder kind of a guy, right? And the biggest thing he noticed was he looked at me the next morning after patching and he said, Laura, I haven't slept like that in 30 years. Now, I don't know about y'all, but sleep is a hot commodity, right? I'll kill somebody if I don't sleep. I don't know. I will go on a rampage. It's just me. I'm Greek. I get a little testy, right? But here's the thing. If you're not sleeping well, regardless of whether you wear this technology or you have other things going on, your body cannot rejuvenate and repair. So if you're going through a life of not sleeping or the monkey mind won't turn off, you can't remain on the healthy path that you might already be on. So understand that you don't have to have this explicit big thing happening in your life to want to experience this stem cell technology or maybe some of the other supporting patches that we have. Dr. Stacy is a perfect example of that, Lily, and that. She wanted it for longevity, but she could not justify the $25,000 for the injection because she knew it needed to go to her daughter. And now this has given her the ability to pour into her own health and wellness and the rest of her family very affordably, right? Not evasive. You don't have to fly across the country to get it. You wake up in the morning, when you grab your toothbrush, you grab your patch. It takes less time to put your patches on than brush your teeth. And I know everybody, or at least I hope everybody is brushing your teeth in the morning, right? So I feel like it's just too easy. It's too easy. And Dr. Stan, who I was with last night, has a beautiful saying. It's a little funny, but it rings so true. with this technology, he says this, I have the ability to have my patients go out with their boots on, not a diaper. Okay. So the question is always, how do you envision your future life? Is it spending time with your family? Being able to get up and down off the floor with your grandchildren? Take them to, I don't know. I don't know what that is for you. Play golf every day. I don't know. But are you on the road to be able to continue to do that until your day comes? I don't know. But I think it's a really important question to ask yourself, that what you want that to look like. Do you want to prevent things that are maybe you're seeing your family members experience? Dementia, Alzheimer's, walking in a room and they have no clue what they need. Heart, cardiovascular disease. I don't know what your family histories are. The question is, do you want to experience those things? If you don't want to experience those things, then this might be something that you should look at for the ease, affordability, and have some great longevity.
Yeah. So this is an opportunity for anyone and everyone who is watching and listening this, or if you share this with a friend, be aware that you can unring the bell of damage in your body, whether it's, blunt force trauma. Maybe you were in a car accident, bike accident, fell on your own feet, hit your head on something. Doesn't matter whether you were diagnosed with one or multiple chronic inflammatory type conditions and dire conditions that in many cases, sometimes modern medicine will tell you there's nothing we can do for this. Either we've never heard of this before, or it's so rare there's not much out there for this particular condition. Or if you've sustained an injury as a result of any kind of chemicals in your work environment, in your home environment, as a direct result perhaps for working in a particular factory or what have you, you had to take, or maybe traveling, a lot of people travel overseas, and in order to travel overseas, sometimes certain shots are required. You can unring the bell of any damage from any source, because your stem cells don't care what the source of damage is. It just recognizes damage and inflammation. It doesn't go after cancer cells. It goes after damaged cells that we happen to call cancer, or we happen to call whatever. And so it's going to replace and restore those at a cellular level, replace the tissue, replace the bones, the muscle. These stem cell activation patches actually do that. We are on the top of the hour here. This has been a phenomenal share of how the stem cell activation patches have actually transformed your lives and the lives of countless others that you've been able to share and patch people with. Laura, thank you for continuing to do. I will honestly say this is truly divinely God's work. We were put on this planet to do this. I see every time I see you, whether it's on a Zoom, which always makes me so, my heart just sings every time I see you. And
You're so sweet.
I do, because you have this ebullient joy just comes out of your pores and your energy. We can see it, and I'm sure everyone here can witness that too. And I just want to thank you and honor you for being unapologetically you, the authentic version of you.
Thank you.
We don't have enough of that in this world. And I just love your courage, your honor, and your just huge open heart. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I don't know what to say. Thank you.
I'm getting the chills here just being here with you. So thank you, my friend. And
you're welcome.
See you very soon.
Yes, you will.
Take I think I'll see you in Aruba, and definitely see you in Tampa.
Yes.
We're gonna see a bunch. I'm so excited.
We're just going to hang out together all the time.
Every month. We're on the we get to see each other somewhere in a different part of the world. So it's awesome. All right.
All right, love. See you soon.